Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip for our spring specials on Tuesday nights. A lot happening around the NHL. We saw another center signed long-term, and I see Choices has a good take on that. We'll get into that. You can't. I heard it all year. I've heard it for years. You just can't win in the playoffs with Nick Ehlers. Is that now you just can't lose in the playoffs with Nick Ehlers? We're going to discuss some of the things happening around the NHL with some former Jets in this playoffs. And I got to say, it feels like the year of vindication for the Landing Strip with what we're seeing out of market around some of the popular debates for the Winnipeg Jets players that have moved on. We also saw a beauty, former Jet Brendan Dillon getting his media big shine debut on Hockey Night in Canada. We'll discuss that a little bit. And maybe now that he's gotten his feet wet, maybe we can get him into the big leagues here on the Landing Strip. We'll have to see if that can work out. And then we got a bunch of submissions. I know the Silver Scrubs in the chat. He had sent in his nightmare offseason and the one that would get him excited, his dream. We got a submission from out in Australia. Ecker from the chat. Aussie. Oi. He sent in his dream offseason, and he went somewhere a little different than we did with a rebuild. And I can't wait to get into that. And I'll let you know ahead of time, Mikey, and the chat. Ecker said, don't be afraid to take a piss out of him and his ideas if you see fit. That's the type of stuff we like to see. I know Choices TK has modeled out a couple of retools for us to go over, because I got to admit, folks, my job this weekend was to find a retool path for the Winnipeg Jets to be able to contend in this situation. And I got to say, folks, it was a very frustrating exercise. So not a very realistic exercise. It's going to take some patience. I would not want to be in Kevin Cheveldayoff's shoes right here. But everyone's focused on the 2C stuff. And I got to say, we'll get into some of the names that might fit that are feasible for Winnipeg, because it is not bright out in that market. We might have to get creative with a retool, because a 2C is just not going to be the focus looking at the market this summer. We'll get into all that. But first, I bring in my friend Mikey, who, unfortunately, I'm an asshole right now, making him film and record during the Montreal Canadiens Game 4 here, where they could take a big 3-1 lead. How you doing tonight, Mikey?
Habs are up 2-1. Canada's team is a team of destiny this year. I'm feeling really good. We can record, we can be here, we can all celebrate together as my Habs continue on this path. So I'm doing great. This is I'm excited.
Yeah, your Habs might be the path. Can you believe it? The Habs made a Stanley Cup final and rebuilt entirely in time to beat the Winnipeg Jets core that's destined for a cup. Can you believe it, folks?
Absolutely.
They have
shocking.
won more rounds between their rebuilds than the Jets have in that time span. Think about that, folks, when you're stuck in this idea that they have the core to win.
Yeah, who would have thought, looking at your group that's not quite good enough to get you over the hump and saying, you know what, we're going to try something different. It's insane, I know, to hear about here in Winnipeg, but it can be done, folks. You don't have to go through a decade or more of pain and sadness and rebuild. You can actually do this in about 5 years, as the Montreal Canadiens are showing us.
Yeah, they certainly are. And when you have balls and trust your management group, guess what? Good things can come from it, as we're seeing it right now.
And I will say, it's no coincidence that it took shedding the ghost of Marc Bergevin and the stink of that entire run and organization, and bringing in a president of hockey operations to oversee the direction and understanding of how to build a hockey team, and a general manager to go out and do that day-to-day work. I'm going to say that maybe those things are kind of connected, but hey, who could say?
Hey, and an agent in that GM chair.
Yes, sir.
Thinking outside the box a lot. It seems like these agents jumping in know a thing or two about running this league. It's cool to watch.
I don't know, man. I was told that the GM is supposed to be at odds with all of the agents and the players, and they're supposed to be fighting. And excuse me, it's actually better that Chevy doesn't get along with them. That's what I was told. So I don't know.
So where should we start today? Should we start with the out-of-market news, say the Charlie Coyle deal, because I think it's going to play into these conversations we're having on whether it's actually feasible that the Winnipeg Jets could actually rebuild or retool, sorry, because they could definitely rebuild.
Yeah, could be, but
so Charlie Coyle today, where was it? 6x6, I think it was.
Yep, 6x6.
34 years old. 34 years old, and he just banked himself 6 years, $6 million off a really genuinely good year for Charlie Coyle in Columbus. But I think Choices raises a good point on this, saying that Coyle deal shows you how big a tax there is on small market projections. The projections for Coyle were around $5.5 million at 3 years, and that they are now paying an extra $20 million to keep him there. 34 years old for a team in Columbus. That's not very close, but that's probably, at least in free agency terms, the best center off the board. No, it's a dry year.
It is really bad for that. It's definitely one of the top names that would have been available. Unfortunately, yeah, that's bad. 6x6 is the extra years is more so what's crazy to me than the AAV being at 6. Right, the
and
5.5
no move
to 6,
the first 4 years.
Full no move, which is absolutely insane. And then it turns to a 20-team no trade list after that. So it's and then down to a 10. Like he got an absolute steal. I don't really know what Columbus is really thinking long term with that one. If that's just to be, we got to get to the salary floor in a couple years with the jump that's coming. Because nothing else really makes a lot of sense. I don't know why you're going into years 3, 4, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 for that one.
Well, never mind. Fantilli's about to get paid.
Yeah.
So you're going to be paying Fantilli and then 2 over-the-age centers in Sean Monahan and Charlie Coyle. I'm glad I'm not in Columbus's spot. But what Columbus did today does show you how thin the center market is, how hard it's going to be to acquire one. The best one in free agency just came off the board. This relates to our entire last conversation of being able to read where the NHL market is and acting on it. And as Gilbert Marion says, Coyle would have been the 2C here, which is criminal when you start thinking about it, because he's going to be number 3 there. And I've been looking around, and if we take names off the board, like Robert Thomas and Elias Pettersson, who have full no moves, and we know what this market faces with contracts like that. You know what the best 4 names I could find for centers is?
Ooh, which ones? Hit me.
I guess it would be 5, but 2 are former Jets now. You're looking at potentially, from your Montreal Canadiens, actually. I think he's got some shine now, and don't think he's a piece they're going to want to pay when they can upgrade still.
Yep.
I think Doc fits the bill of what the Jets could try and do. Not exciting. Looking at who they're playing right now and what they've been trying to do, Josh Norris and his $8 million for 45 games a year fits the bill of something they might be able to pull off. Who was the other one here? Barrett Hayden in Utah. Continues to be a name I'm somewhat interested in, honestly. But that's kind of the bet you're making for a 2C on a team trying to contend. Another one I couldn't help but notice while trolling Shovel Day Off on social media this weekend or this week. Andrew Copp doesn't have any no trade protection.
Copper, yep. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like Jack Rozovic and the Edmonton Oilers are far apart on contract talks.
Let's bring JR home.
You want to start finding a 2C when you're facing Winnipeg's market conditions? Those might be the 4 or 5 names we're talking about here. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, no, Nick, none of those guys is a 2C, that doesn't solve the problem. You're getting to the problem.
Man,
now.
you're good at
We
this.
are arriving at the destination here. This is what it's looking like to go find a center on the market without getting someone to waive a no-move clause or a no-trade clause. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, this is, unless we're bringing the band back together, I don't really know what the options are going to be. We've heard that Winnipeg can't attract free agents. We've heard that Winnipeg can't get anybody to take them off their no-trade clause list. So your options are, the absolute aging veterans. And I think we might have tried that this past season with the Jonathan Toews, Gustav Nyquist retirement home tour. So I don't know if going to get 37-year-old Lars Eller is really going to be the magic wand that they need. Hey, Kevin Hayes is going to be 34 and a free agent. Does he want to come to Winnipeg? That always looks good, a Hayes in a Winnipeg Jets jersey. Like, what are we talking about? It's great to say the Jets are a 2C away, which isn't even anywhere near the half, the quarter of it. But even if you thought that was the only hole to fill, how are they doing it? What are they doing it with? Cheveldayoff told you they can't trade for one because they have no assets to go out and make a big enough trade to do that. He tells you that you can't sign a free agent, and he tells you that no one wants to come off the trade list. So where is this magical 2C that is good enough, that wants to come here, that will like all of this? Where is it coming from? Like, it's just not a realistic year for that.
Of those 5, who would you most want to see as the Winnipeg Jets 2C bet next year?
Oh, it's Jack Roslovic, no question. That's my boy, future Hall of Famer Jack Roslovic. Can get his career back on track. Come home, JR, come home.
What'd you think of my little video presentation of the retool?
That's what I mean. Get the band back together. Let's go. I'm actually all for it.
Let's map it out here. Let's map it out here. Knowing Kevin Cheveldayoff and his limited connections in this league, I can't help but notice a lot of the available talent used to play in Winnipeg. Andrew Kopp, bring him home for the 2C. Big Ben Badgerot might be had. Mason Appleton might come back.
He can save Lowry.
Yeah.
And miss every open net.
Patty Laine, free agent.
Yep.
It might be just time. Jacob Trouba, free agent.
Hey.
Is it time to just bring back the old vibes? All the guys Kevin Cheveldayoff drafted and developed and took his picture with on the draft floor. Do we just bring them all back in this attempted retool? Where are we going here?
I kind of honestly love it. I say we get Trouba back here, toss him on that pairing with Morrissey, because Salamanca's never going to be given a real opportunity. Go get Kopp. Let's fill that 2C role. I'm all for it. I think it would be great. So many people would have to, they've got jerseys they can break out of the closet again. It's a win right across the board.
What's old is new again.
That's right.
But speaking of old Jets, as we dive into this, and then I'll get into Turd as he threw a trade suggestion from the dumbest man behind a microphone today that we got to talk about on a day that we're talking potential trades.
Oh, God.
But some news, some vindicating news. And Nikolaj Ehlers doesn't mind taking a little victory tour on some of his takes that were abused on social media or in the comments of this podcast for years now. Should we start with the Buffalo duo, or should we start with the Danish stud in Carolina? Which Jet situation should we discuss in these playoffs first here? Because great, both are great news for me, and I'm ready to revel in it right now, buddy.
I say we start with the Buffalo duo, just because it's very present to what's going on today, for example.
Today? So what did we see happen today in Buffalo, Mikey? What's going on with the big, bad, mean playoff defensemen, Luke Schenn and Logan Stanley? How is their playoff experience going? And was Jarmo right to go target those guys for a run for the Buffalo Sabres? What's been happening in this series, Mikey, between Buffalo and the Montreal Canadiens?
I've got a very special, I think, observation point, having watched Luke Schenn and Logan Stanley go out for the Winnipeg Jets for most of this season, and now getting to see them in the Buffalo uniforms against my Montreal Canadiens. And boy, it's like it's deja vu, man. It's like, you toss you change the colors on those jerseys and you're right back in Winnipeg, in late November, watching the two of them just get absolutely burned shift after shift. It's been real classic Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn lately. No, Jarmo was not right. They have not been anywhere helpful for the Buffalo Sabres and their playoff hunt. They've been an actual detriment. You've got a couple goals we can point to specifically that are, the Luke Schenn, the Logan Stanley special. So it's been everything that you saw here in Winnipeg, all of the bad with really none of the, the exciting good part of the, the Logan Stanley renaissance and all the goals. He's been unfortunately relegated to a spot where he's not getting those offensive minutes and being absolutely exposed on the defensive side. It's rough if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan. I've seen a bunch online saying, "Oh no, Winnipeg fans were right. We're sorry," because they're feeling the pain right now.
That 3-1 goal sequence last game. Yep. I have seen Logan Stanley do that exact sequence dozens, if not hundreds of times over the last few years while people tried to sell him as the next Logan Chara.
He's the future, man.
He's the future, baby.
Wingspan of an albatross.
Best clip of the year. Best clip of the year. If you don't sign him, what are you doing? He is the future, baby. But on that play, he's got time and space. He's going up ice. Sends a soft backhand to nowhere. Turnover. Gets beat back up the ice the other way. And then is found covering nobody on the side of the slot. 3-1 Montreal. That was the differentiator in a playoff game that decided who would take the 2-1 league. And Buffalo got so desperate at this point that they threw in Luke Schenn for Logan Stanley, which drew quite the take from a mainstream voice today. Pierre LeBrun, I love that Luke Schenn is going in tonight for the Sabres. Oodles of playoff experience. Cup champ. Young team will benefit from his presence. What he forgot to add is the young team that would benefit is the young French team on the other side.
Correct.
This playoff resume that old heads and the old guard get sucked into is so ridiculous. It's this whole intangibles bullshit. You want to talk intangibles? Colin Hall nails it, saying, my one thing I'd get the Jets to do in a rebuild is target dogs like Zach Benson. That's intangibles to me. Being willing to do whatever it takes, sacrificing yourself to win games. Being a glorified beer leaguer in a playoff game and getting outscored 12-3 last year in the playoffs in his minutes is not bringing any young team or any team trying to contend positives. Guess what? I'm sure there's good guys on that bench. Everyone's capable of tapping a young guy and saying, hey, don't worry about that. We got the next shift. Like, there's nothing special about that radiates from that conversation. I'm sorry. Yep. Especially when you're giving up everything on the ice. So feel very vindicated there for all the people that thought Logan Stanley was the future and you just need a player like that in the playoffs. It took 3 games for the Buffalo Sabres to give up on Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn together. I don't know if that makes me prouder or depressing that it took the morons here a full year of it and being forced to trade to move off of it.
Never forget, he would be a Winnipeg Jet right now if Jarmo didn't come knocking.
He still might be the July 1st.
He still might be.
That's the concern right now.
Yeah.
But everything we've told you and everything that got pushed back, you're seeing it on full display from teams that actually are trying to do something, that are trying to win, and they fucked up by trading for the two. But guess what? They're willing to give up on it. They're not married to it because they put a decade into it. If you spend the time to watch hockey outside of just Winnipeg, outside of just listening to CJ Obiet Noon and the broadcasts in Winnipeg that have incentives to tell you that everything is good in Winnipeg, if you spend the time to watch playoff hockey and understand what's going on, you will see that I'm not some raging lunatic, that this is all basic common sense stuff that most of the league can fucking figure out.
Yep.
And you know what else was common sense? That Nick Ehlers was one of the best forwards to come through Winnipeg. Let's talk about Nick Ehlers' playoff experience from Mr. Can't play in the playoffs, and you'll never win with him in the playoffs. Let's talk about what's going on with Nikolaj Ehlers, because this is another avenue where if you spend the time to simply watch the Carolina Hurricanes, you will see how outdated the Winnipeg Jets process is, and it's infuriating. On Nick Ehlers, in his last 6 games with the Winnipeg Jets, the Dallas series, he played the Game 6 and Game 7 in round 1. Game 6, he played 16 minutes. Game 7 with Scheifele out, that went to double overtime. He played 25 minutes plus. Then we get to him being fully healthy in the Dallas series, and the Jets have in their roster, right?
Here we go.
The Jets have their roster. They're going to run it this way. They're never going to adjust. What does it lead to? Game 1, Nick Ehlers played 18:51, his high for that round. Game 2, 14:37. Game 3, 16:24. Game 4, 16:45. Game 5, 14:56. Game 6, 14:48. That is 3 games under 15 minutes so that you could play Mason Appleton over 15 minutes a night with Adam Lowry while trying to compete for a cup. What's happening in Carolina? Because I'm seeing, and this is how badly the Winnipeg Jets organization has disillusioned their fan base. This is a perfect example of it, because all I'm seeing from the people that have shit on Ehlers for years, oh, he's playing third line. See, you idiots were wrong. He's playing third line. No, you guys are the idiots and continue to be. Let's talk about it. Ehlers, in 7 games with Carolina, as he missed Game 4 in the first round with a foot injury after blocking a shot late in Game 3.
I thought he was too soft to block shots. That's, never.
Game 1 in Carolina, 18:38. Game 2, double overtime, 24:20. Game 3, 17:06. Game 4, 18:17. Game 5, 21:35 OT game. Game 6, 17:30. Game 7, 18:31. You know what Nick Ehlers did? He chose opportunity and a chance at the big dance. And you know why he's getting minutes despite playing with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook, who I thought Brendan Dillon had a great intermission segment on that. We'll get into that in a second.
Yep.
This is exactly why we said if you're not going to use him on the top line, guess what? He could fit beside an Adam Lowry. And we saw them use it for 4 games before abandoning it. And it's the same ingredients. Jordan Staal and Adam Lowry, very similar level of player type. Jordan Martinook and Alex Iafallo, similar play type. And it just opens up all this room for Nick Ehlers. But you know what else Carolina's doing to get him extra minutes? Offensive zone. If they're sending out a line that's not offensive, Ehlers sees some extra shifts there.
Yep.
Can you believe a coach is able to do that and adjust to get his best players more minutes? And that you don't just roll this like you're a 7 and 8 hockey team? Like, the approach the Jets take is outdated at AAA.
Yeah.
What else are they doing to benefit from Nick Ehlers' minutes? Oh, they're playing him on both power plays. Can you believe he's overlapping both to let his skill set take over? And lastly on this, article written after Game 4, I often wondered when I was watching him with Winnipeg, why that coaching staff didn't give him better looks, better top offensive looks, both on the power play and at 5-on-5, because he pushed defensemen back. And an NHL scout told The Athletic after Game 4, he put teams on their heels with his speed and his transition game. And then he leaves, and they instantly became old and slow. Guess what, folks? It's not just the guys pissed off with the team locally. You're hearing it from people that have jobs within this league that are supposed to understand this, and the Winnipeg Jets did not. And that's the biggest reason most people miss the fact that they would drop off as hard as they did. It is right here in this conversation and how outdated this organization is in deploying talent, in understanding what they have, in valuing offense, in how they structure a lineup, in how they scout, in how they develop. All of this, the Nick Ehlers conversation and what's happening with him in Carolina, the 3rd most played player at forward for Carolina by time on ice per game, and they are 8-0 in the playoffs. This is why someone like me spent years nailing down on this conversation. And I'm seeing it vindicated. And I hope he raises a cup. I hope he does.
Yeah, to quote a really great hockey mind, you have to let your best players be your best players. Unfortunately, they didn't want to apply that thinking to themselves here in Winnipeg. How many times have we heard Scott Arniel and Kevin Cheveldayoff this year say, well, you have to let your best players be your best players. They've got to go out and do it. Nick Ehlers did that for multiple years, doing it at a pace with less ice time than anybody else since we started tracking the fucking stats. One of the most prolific players to do something with nothing. And we were just like, yeah, nah, it's fine. We can replace that, no problem going forward, as opposed to playing him the right way the entire time. There are so many other ways to get people ice time, like you mentioned, like what we saw Rantanen do to the Jets in the playoffs. This isn't NHL 94. The lines aren't set up ahead of time and you enter it in and then you press play. Like, you're allowed to, try to move things around, try to be creative with it. It's just, it was never going to happen here. And he, like you said, he chased both more opportunity on the ice and he chased a shot at the cup, and he's getting it. He's getting both things because a team that is already competitive, that was already trying to get over, looked at the opportunity to have a player like Nick Ehlers, to have that level of production not come from your first, like your top three main guys, whatever you want to look at it, your first line, quote unquote, to give you that level of production. They went, fuck yeah, we'll take that. That's exactly what you need to get over, to put your team over the top. Something that the Winnipeg Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff have had two opportunities to now in their run and have failed miserably both times.
Yeah, it's stunning that a team that's been a consistent Eastern Conference playoff team, Eastern Conference championship team, that just hasn't gone over Florida, run by one of the smartest people in hockey, was able to identify this, but people really wanted to yell about me pointing it out. Maybe it's time to look in the mirror on the Nick Ehlers stuff and figure out why you got it wrong. As Prod Zippy says, notice how Logan Stanley is given less ice time, his production goes down. This is true for every single player in hockey, and it's why it was so clear this Logan Stanley breakout was always a mirage.
Yeah.
There was nothing to it. He was playing lots of minutes for a bad hockey team and getting points.
His shooting percentage was like 3 times his average for normal. Like, beware the magical season. It's an outlier for a reason. If this had been the norm, Stanley already would have been signed and already would have been, like, it's not what it was. You were seeing it because of opportunity, because of minutes. Again, don't let anybody try to tell you that more minutes together doesn't lead to production, because that's just stupid in math. It's just one of those things where the evidence was right in front of them the entire time. And as being pointed out in our chat, the Jets are bad at talent evaluation, whether it's their own talent, whether it's NHL talent. They did well, those first couple drafts, and we've talked about why. But overall, they've just had such an inability to judge and identify where their own holes are and how to fill those holes with the current trends of the NHL.
Let's get into Dilly on the broadcast, but I see Hell Wars News says, if Ehlers ever hits 90 points, then I'll be impressed. It's funny because Hell Wars had to pay me a crisp $100 for Ehlers scoring over 70 points this year. And he trolled me right up until March, thinking that was a signed, sealed, and delivered bet. Funny how that one worked. I wonder who saw things more clearly. Anyways.
I love the goalpost move to 90. That's good.
Yeah. Got to make that big boost. Got to make it unreasonable now.
Right.
Brendan Dillon debuted on Hockey Night Canada in the media side of it. Former Jet, very beloved Jet. I don't think I've ever gotten so many DMs of positive stories about a former Jet than when Brendan Dillon left town, which was always cool to see.
Yep.
I thought he did a great job pointing out why the Ehlers, Stahl, Martinuk line is so effective and how Philly had to actually use their checking line against it, with the other two being workhorses and the goal just being to find Nick Ehlers the puck. Here's your creator. And we saw Adam Lowry play like that. But we'll move forward. What'd you think so far? Brendan Dillon on the broadcast for 3 nights. We see a lot of players come and go into these broadcasts with different results. What'd you think Dilly on the broadcast this weekend?
Yeah, you see a lot of you see a lot of players come in during the playoffs, which is always one of my favorite parts of the playoffs, right? You get the players kind of, ice level view of the game being broadcast out is something that it's real special. So I've really liked it so far. You never know what you're going to get, right? When the guys get up there, are they going to be able to handle the big moment like that? And he's killing it. I've really liked his takes, and like you said, not only after he left, but even now since he's been on the broadcast, I've had people message me like, hey, shit, Brendan Dillon's really good out there. His analysis is fantastic. And especially like you said with the Martin Ehlers stuff was dead on.
Yeah. So we've seen TJ Oshie. Let's use that as a bit of a comparable here. I think TJ Oshie's had his struggles in broadcasting. Admire him for trying it, and I think he's gotten better as it's kind of gone on. But it wasn't a smooth jump in my opinion, to it. I thought Brendan Dillon was actually a natural on the broadcast. Calm, cool, and collected. You could tell he was really enjoying it too. But I like his analysis. For a guy that's kind of labeled this hard-nosed, old-school defenseman, he has a real grip on the game and where it's gone. And to get his perspectives, I had a ton of fun listening to. I know a lot of Jets fans had reached out to me really enjoying it. I thought he showed that there might be a career post-playing days in media for him if he wanted to chase it. Oh,
definitely. He'll if he doesn't want to get into the coaching side or management side of things, you can for sure see him out there, hosting and doing the panel stuff. He's a natural to it. It's hard, getting out in front of a camera like that, talking to people for long stretches of time. It's not easy. Like it's a real tough thing to do, but he made it look like anybody could do it, and I think that's the mark, right? If it looks smooth and natural like that, you've got something.
Gilbert Marion said Strome seemed pretty informative. I did enjoy Strome too. That's a good call.
Yep.
Blake G said Brendan Dillon was so good on the PDO cast. The summer he left Winnipeg,
right.
He was insightful, and I was very impressed. He also jumped on mid-season, right after the Hughes trade, actually. And I found it very interesting to see an active player kind of discussing the inner workings and how that might have shaken their team a little bit.
Agreed.
Very straightforward, very open guy. I very much have enjoyed that experience.
I want
more of it.
More players to kind of follow that lead, right? Hockey, I really do think is lacking in a little bit of the personalities being loud. I bet you a lot of the guys, in the locker rooms and stuff who have that kind of ability, that personality, but, the culture's kind of pushed them away from wanting to do it. So I like that, Dillon's out there, and hopefully more guys follow his lead.
2-2, by the way. Sorry, buddy.
Fuck. Yeah.
Bingo Bango says PK is still my favorite. Hey, PK is a born entertainer. That guy was born for the spotlight.
And shout out, he just completed his $10 million pledge that he was making to the Children's Hospital in Montreal.
Really?
Yep. It was a 10-year, $10 million pledge, and he just finished completing it. He just finished the donation.
Yeah, from what I understand on the players getting on during the playoffs, apparently Sportsnet, as they roll through different towns and games, they talk to some of the guys throughout the year and see if they're interested in ever giving it a try. The guys that are really out there and talkative with the media, they kind of put that olive branch out there and then check in at the playoff time. I heard that's how that kind of came to be, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Too. Anyways, enough of that kind of stuff. Should we move into the projects of the night as we dive into some fan submission, retools, rebuilds? We're going to judge them. We're going to give our takes. We want to hear your takes in the chat. Should we dive into what's been sent in as far as some pathways for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, that's
this summer.
The theme that we have going on for today is we're going to take your guys' submissions. We've got a few lined up and ready to go. So let's see how you want to approach the summer here. Let's flip over.
So before we get into that, I'll just touch on Turd Ferguson, who pointed out a certain radio host decided this was the idea for the summer. We should get Zibanejad or JT Miller for number 8 overall, Cole Perfetti, and Dillon DeMello. What do you think of trading number 8 overall, Dillon DeMello, and Cole Perfetti for JT Miller or Mika Zibanejad?
That has to be a troll, right? That's a joke suggestion. Nobody in their right mind who has watched hockey at any point in the last 15 years would come out and make that an actually like true suggestion on how to help a hockey team, because it's absolutely ridiculous. There's no world whatsoever where that type of valuation is anywhere close. Not only on the ice, but off the ice. Like, tell me you know nothing about JT Miller or what goes on in the National Hockey League without telling me. Like, come on. That's an absolute. I'm hoping that whoever said that was kidding or trying to, make a funny of some way, because otherwise they may need some professional help.
This person does, unfortunately. Low low IQ individual suggesting such a thing. You want to talk about a trade that completely fucks the Winnipeg Jets for the next 5-6 years?
Yeah.
It is exactly what he suggested. The good news, folks, for 33-year-old JT Miller and 33-year-old Mika Zibanejad, they both have full no-move clauses. We won't get hooped
there
into such a bad trade.
I don't even know what the thought process possibly could be where you would think that's a good idea in any direction, on the ice, off the ice. There's no world where that makes any type of sense. I'm baffled that a coherent human being made those words come out of their mouth.
As Michael Hem says, neither of those guys is worth 8 overall outright.
Exactly. Like that's absolutely bananas.
Yeah, and that's the biggest brain in the city, if you ask him, somehow coming up with that. Speaking of big brains, I want to give Jet Effect Winnipeg in our chat a bit of a shout out. I can't talk today. This is a struggle. Jet Effect Winnipeg built a hockey site called hockeywiz.ca, and I got to help test some of the beta in it and give some suggestions and help work on some new things. And one thing I found really cool on the site after Thursday's episode, where we were mocking out how we would approach the offseason, it inspired him to model out a trade machine. So I went after the show and was playing around with the trade machine, and I got some interesting takeaways from the old machine on some of the stuff we pitched last week. Should we discuss that, and then we'll dive into the thoughts?
Excellent.
So my big move was the Hellebuck and Morgan Barron for Anton Lundell, number 9 overall, and 2029 second-round pick. The old trade machine had that perfectly fair right down the middle, actually. So we might be on to something there.
Hell yeah.
The Josh Morrissey plus number 8 for number 2 and William Eklund. It suggested we are probably short a mid-second-round pick leaving Winnipeg to San Jose.
Fair.
So a second-round valued asset. Could be the Buffalo pick. Could be a roster piece as we try and get younger. But we're in the range, and we did talk about it being a seller's market for premium things. So I still think that that's in the range of outcomes.
Yep.
One that has been hotly debated in the market going back to like March, February, maybe even January. The model has Cole Perfetti for Shane Wright as a dead even trade for both parties.
Yeah.
Found that interesting. For Kyle Connor, around pick number 4, it suggests number 4 and Kyle Connor are nearly equal value, and the Jets would have to offer up a late third-ish. So, hey, I think I was in the ballpark. It was fun to play around with that machine.
Yeah.
Some of the other ideas, still working on. But I just wanted to shout out Jet Effect Winnipeg in our chat. He's trying to build a new hockey go-to website, hockeywiz.ca. I've had fun using it. Maybe you will too. Want to shout out our community there. But let's move in to some of the retool and rebuilds sent from the community here.
Awesome. Let's flip over here. So the first one we've got is from Choices TK. Shout out Choices. It's the Jets Contend van.
Jets Contend van. Let's go through it. I think this one, when he sent it in, he said some of the trades were inspired by Skates and Plates, the Winnipeg Jets podcast. The Ruicki brothers do. Give them some love and go give that a listen. But I believe he modeled part of this retool off of their content, so I wanted to shout them out there. Let's go into Choices TK's Jets retool using Vancouver is what I assume that means.
So we've got 3 signings Choices has made. Cole Perfetti coming in at a 4-year deal at $6 million per. Eric Comrie, $850 for 2 years. And Jacob Bryson returning for 2 years at $950K. So filling in a couple role players there, and Cole Perfetti, the big signing by Choices here. How do you feel?
Bring Bryson back?
Do we have to? Hey, this is GM Choices. So yeah, we do in this instance. How would you feel? You're sitting here, we're doing the show, and you get the notification. Jacob Bryson has re-signed 2 years with the Winnipeg Jets, $950.
It'd be a big shrug. Whatever. I do like the idea of going 4 times 6 with Perfetti because the way this market's going, I think we're in for some big shocks, as I've been saying, on July 1st. And if you were to sign that, I think that's undervalued for the first 3 years of his UFA. That's the type of thing I'd like to see.
Yep, I think you're getting good value in both directions there.
Let's keep it going.
And Eric
James
Comrie,
Robinson, I'm going to get into your RFA idea after this one because I think it's interesting, but I think there's some problems with it.
So let's start with the big trade. Your Winnipeg Jets add Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks for Braden Yager, Dominic DiVincentis, a 2027 second-round pick from Buffalo, and the Winnipeg Jets 2028 second-round pick.
What do you think of that trade?
Look, I think we all know, I think there is a reclamation project in PD. I think there is something there that you can do. If this is going to be the quote-unquote retool effect, right, this is the way that they're going, they're going to still say this is the win now roster. You could do a lot worse than bringing in Pettersson because I do think there is a reclamation project there. I think he's just in a really bad type of headspace. The whole situation in Vancouver has just been a fucking mess for quite a while now. I think the change of scenery, if anybody is going to get a change of scenery work, I think it is Petey wherever he ends up. So if you're going down that road, sure, I can be sold on Pettersson.
I could see this value kind of working out too with the Jaeger in 2 seconds. The thing there, so Petey, obviously the last 2 years have not gone well. I'm not convinced his shot's ever coming back. I've read some stuff out of Vancouver that it's believed he has tendonitis in his wrist. I do think he's still a top-end defensive center, and at 11.6 with where the cap's going, that's going to be market rate at some point in that deal, though not right now. Not right away. I do think right now it's an interesting situation. If he could get back up to 70 points, 80 points, playing on a better team, I do think he'll be worth it. I don't think we'll ever see the 100-plus again with the wrist problem and what we've seen offensively. He is someone that did generate a lot of offense off the rush, and as you saw talent bleed out of Vancouver, those numbers dipped, and I think the Jets fit that better. I do think he's a good center for Kyle Connor, to be honest, if you could ever split up the duo.
And in terms of
think that would
defense,
be a good...
he's the antithesis to Mark Scheifele, right? So if you're banking on Scheifele being still a 100-point player next season and they're going to push it into the chips, you want an elite defensive center, right, playing the big minutes behind him. So you do get that.
And Turd Ferguson said, I had wrist tendonitis when I turned 13, but I outgrew it.
Oh, good.
So
when Petey hits puberty, we'll be set.
So I don't mind this angle. I would be fine with that price to take that kind of bet. I do think as far as upside, unless a Robert Thomas were to waive, I do think Petey is the most upside option available. But I also do think it's going to take very specific circumstances, like we saw when Nate Schmidt came to Winnipeg, for him to waive to Winnipeg.
Yes.
His family's clearly gone through a lot, 2 stillbirths in the last 2 years. Hopefully they're doing all right. Can't imagine going through that. Never mind what was going on with the hockey team.
Yep.
So if you're able to get him a waive, I don't hate the price. I get where we're going with it. My big thing there is with the cap going up, the limited amount of talent available, I think Blake G nails this. To me, with the cap going up, PD screams hurricane to me. I agree with that. I do think ultimately Carolina is going to be the team that goes in there and takes the shot. When you look at their cap outlook and how cheaply they got their core signed in the last 2 years, I could see a team in California taking that bet. I just don't think the Jets will be the most well-positioned team to get PD unless there was no other team bidding. If no other team is bidding, it becomes the Nate Schmidt thing, where Vancouver probably tries to keep pressuring him to, and the Jets keep trying to talk him to him.
Yeah.
Like, remember, it took 3 conversations with Nate Schmidt before he waived.
3 no's.
That's the only scenario I see this actually coming to fruition in the real world. In this fantasy hockey world, I get it. I don't mind it. It's probably the highest upset bet at 2C. He takes care of the defensive side to really pair up with Scheifele within a top 6. He's much more offensively inclined than Adam Lowry, clearly.
Yep.
But I just don't think it'll play out like that in reality. But I like where this is going. We can keep going from here if you could pull that off.
Yep. And it is still a risk, right? It's not a guarantee that he gets back to that level. But if he, you know, as Kevin says over on the YouTube chat, even if all he is going forward is a 60-point two-way guy, wouldn't that still be the best 2C they've run out in like a decade?
Yeah, well, yeah,
right?
That's the other part of it, right? So, yeah, I get the idea. I don't worry about any of the pieces we're giving up. I don't rate goalie prospects, especially the two in Winnipeg, compared to some of the best prospects out there. Yager, that's the big piece, obviously.
Yep.
Fine by me at this point.
Yep.
In 2 seconds. If you hit on a PD bet and this team starts going backwards, but you get a bounce back from PD, you're going to get more than that in return. So, yeah, I don't mind this.
So, moving on. This is probably where the inspiration came from with the skates and blades. The Winnipeg Jets acquire Owen Tippett and Ristolainen for Colby Barlow, a 2026 first and a 2026 third.
What is your immediate reaction to that one?
I hate it. 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 I don't like it. I don't like the players that we're getting back. I don't like the value we're giving in the other direction with the 2026 first. I'm not a fan. This one makes me go, no, please, no. I don't know. How about you?
I don't love the direction, but I get why this is all together because we're trying to put it together and win right now.
A win now, yeah.
So you're getting Petey, you're getting Tippett. Both those guys are going to immediately upgrade your second line. Tippett is a player I do like, and at 6.2 mil, especially where the cap's going, I do think there's a lot of value there. But as we've kind of talked about, those wingers that can score aren't necessarily the hardest to find. That I don't know if I want to give up a premium asset in the number 8 overall pick.
No.
Risto clearly I think is the one you're trying to sell us on here.
Yeah.
The right-handed D, add some size. I imagine the play here is to play him with Morrissey and bump DeMello down if I were to kind of map out where I think this would go.
Yep.
Thing with Risto, he had a really good year in Philly. Thing there is, it did come playing in lesser minutes than he's played in years past, and he did handle those a lot better than on the top pair. He played on average second pair this year. I do think there's some risk in playing him beside a Morrissey, and what that can kind of be if this is a one-year blip. You kind of talk about beware the magical season.
Yep.
His offense has been going down. His defense has increased. He could work beside Morrissey. I don't love trading a premium asset in number 8, which I think could be a cornerstone to the next era, for tertiary pieces. A second line winger who is good. I get where this whole vision's going.
Yep.
I just don't love the idea of trading a number 8 pick. I don't really care about Barlow at this point, third rounder as much. But if I'm trading a top 10 pick, I need a bona fide stud because I don't think this core has enough studs as it is. And I think you're getting secondary, though potentially good secondary impact players. I just value what a number 8 pick could be, big picture, overfilling it with what I view as that secondary core, probably, as Cheveldayoff would have described it, rather than the core.
Yeah, 100% agreed. It's not
but
so much Owen Tippett. You want to talk about Owen Tippett in a vacuum, we could probably find some value somewhere, but in a year where the Jets are going to be drafting in the top 10, I'm not giving up that value for a scoring winger that we can get pretty much anywhere else. And fucking Risto, I just don't trust. Not even a little bit.
I like this from Michael Hems. Risto's like the anti-Sandberg. He's fine now. Torts kind of fixed him, but that's a player the league overvalues, and the Jets should be looking for undervalued players.
Nailed it.
He also adds speed and size on the wing is kind of exactly what the Jets need, though. And Tippett does fit that. He's fast, he's big, and he can score. Like, he is a profile that I do think fits really well into what the Jets need.
Yep.
And when we're talking about PD, Tippett, Risto, I'm seeing where this is going. I do think there's a chance that the floor falls out from it and you're stuck with a lot of values that you're not going to get as much going forward. But if it were to work, I do see where this is going. I don't hate it.
I would have to that first round pick for me would need to be a 2027 first on the assumption that you are really trying to contend this year and you don't plan on being anywhere near that bottom 10 and you're going to be in the playoffs, so your pick's going to be in the late 20. Like, it needs to be that type of situation, so it can't be that top 8 pick. It just can't for me. Jet
Effect says love Tibbet, can't give up the 8th though.
Yep.
Gilbert Marion says Smith is going to have a better career than Risto. It is interesting, though, and these are the kind of hard things that might need to happen if people want this miracle run to happen. Let's keep her moving.
We've got a couple salary dumps here. Nito Niederreiter heading to Chicago for a 4th-round pick in 2027. And Vlad Nemestikov, baby's going home to Grandpa Bones where he belongs for a 2027 3rd-round pick.
Sounds good. Colin Hall also makes a good point. Why are you giving the 8th overall when guys like Chinnikov become available yearly? Yep. And he was a 2 and a 4. Though in this 8th overall, you are addressing 2 needs, or what you view as 2 needs.
2 needs, yep. And finally, Dylan DeMello heading to division rival St. Louis Blues for a 2026 2nd-round pick.
That makes sense to me. I think that's about where his value would be right now.
So that's those are the trades.
Like here?
So let's get this going here. So at forward, here are your 4 lines. You've got Kyle Connor, Mike Scheifele, and Gabe Vilardi, of course. Cole Perfetti playing shotgun to Pettersson and Tippett. You've got Iafallo, Lowry, and Koepke, and then Lambert, Barron, and Chibrikov. How do you feel about those forwards?
A much better group than we saw this year. I guess my big thing here, I do think that's a playoff team if all goes well. But is it a cup team?
No.
Maybe? Probably
I still
not.
Don't think so. I still
What's
believe.
What's the decor look like here?
Unless you're gonna get if you have if you got a coaching staff that's willing to play with your wingers and your lineup a little bit, I think maybe you could eke a championship run, like something deep out of it. But I still feel like the Jets, they're gonna load up heavy like this, right, in that top 6, and you're gonna have a 3rd and 4th line where there is no offense.
If you flipped Scheifele and PD's wingers here, I wouldn't hate it, actually.
Right? That would actually be pretty good.
It is a good group. Like, it's a group that we'll be watching playoff games with.
100%.
But then in the division with Utah, Mini, Dallas,
honestly,
and Colorado,
it would feel a lot like last season where we're watching them win a lot of regular season games, and we'd be going, man, when they add at the deadline, they're going to have 3 deep lines. They're going to add some scoring at the deadline. Boy, they're going to look real. It would be that. We'd have a rerun of last year.
Okay, let's see what the decor looks like. I'm going to guess it's going to be Risto, Morrissey, Salmonson, Sandberg, Pionk.
So we've got Jomo and Risto, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, and Elias Salamonson.
Well, we might as well just go upgrade the left-handed D if we're all the way here at this point.
Oh,
Fleury cannot be.
Hayden Fleury, former first-round pick, baby.
Regulars.
That's who your next up is Jacob Bryson waiting in the wings and Parker Ford in the press box with him.
Okay, so you need a bit of a left-handed D upgrade.
Yep.
I do think this is a quality retool. Do I think it's feasible in reality? Probably not. I don't see the PD thing. Number 8 for 2 tertiary assets bothers me.
Me too.
But I see them getting uncomfortable to make a quality team that plays at least one round of the playoffs. Yep. Could be an underdog story in round 1, but I don't think they're going much further than that.
Yep. I agree.
Really depends on PD, though.
It does.
If you get PD back, like, it does change a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. All right, let's move into another one here. Actually, I want to go, while you pull up a second one here. So this one we agree would be a good team, but there's some potential feasibility issues.
Some big ifs.
So I want to go to James Robinson here because this is an avenue that makes some sense, though I don't think the Jets are set up well for it. James Robinson said, ideally the Jets would be chasing a player that can fill 2C now with a potential to be 1C in 2 or 3 years. And his suggestion was going to the RFAs. So you see guys like Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli. I know one of our listeners, I can't remember what he goes by on here. Don't want to throw his name out there in case, but suggested offer sheeting one of those 3 at the max. All those guys, their team is just matching. None of those guys are leaving home. I see 2 real offer sheet possibilities, maybe 3. but 2 for sure. One was the one we mentioned last year at this time when we're looking for 2Cs, and that was Maverick Bourque.
Yep.
He ended up signing right before free agency a 1-year prove-it deal. Dallas is in a bit of financial trouble, and now he could kind of be had because they got to pay Robertson, right?
Yeah,
Harley.
huge.
Heiskanen's around the corner. So I do think Maverick Bourque is the type of RFA offer sheet possibility that could bring in a young guy that might become a 2C. The problem there, as was the same problem when we had this exact discussion last year, by trading their own seconds for Luke Schenn and Brandon Tanev, they won't be in that second-round pick range for offer sheets. They don't have their own to offer. Even though they got Buffalo's back to sign an offer sheet, you have to have your own picks.
Yep.
So a guy like that is off the board. A guy we've been mocking in Hellebuyck trades in Mackie Samoskevich, I think he's another potential offer sheet candidate.
Yep.
Pending on what Florida does with their goaltending. And again, we don't have our second-round picks to do it because Chevy decided to boatload those out for 2 bums.
Yep.
So I don't see any of the top centers being available through offer sheets. Leo Carlson's the truth. Anaheim's going to just match
They're locking
it.
that up, yeah.
Bedard's just going to match it.
Oh,
I
no
imagine
question.
Columbus would just match it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see avenues where the offer sheet is a real path. St. Louis showed us the real
How to do
pathway
that.
to acquiring offer sheet talent.
Yep.
And it's not the guys that are proven. It's the guys like Mav Bourque, and we don't have the asset to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah. You'd have to be focusing on doing a like trade and sign and trade type of situation, which the prices change quite drastically at that point. The whole process changes. It's like you said, the Winnipeg Jets decided that, players like Luke Schenn and Brandon Tanev were worth the second round picks that are, required to go out and do something like this. It's frustrating, yeah.
Cam over on YouTube says, "You think the Jets go back to Comrie again? ? Got to think they want to start getting Milic or Dom some games in the next year or 2. I think if Hellebuyck's still here, I think Comrie will be back.
Correct.
And those 2 will be battling for the crease in the A. If Hellebuyck pulls the trigger, that conversation might change a little bit there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd have either of them up though yet myself. I'm just not sold though.
Yeah, I don't think it's time for them to be playing backup games quite yet. Another year of fighting for the crease in the American Hockey League, I think, is probably better for those guys. They haven't really lit it up in any sustained method. And yeah, like you said, if Hellebuyck is back, I think Eric Comrie absolutely will be back. They formed a team, a tandem that understands the role for each one of them, and it's a comfortable position, I think, that the Jets like to have that locked up in a non-competitive type of way when you have Connor Hellebuyck there. So, but like you said, if Connor Hellebuyck pulls the shoot, and all bets are off, and who knows which way they take it.
Tracy TK mentioned, just to put an end to this one, saying Rosén is missing. He needs to be re-signed in that build also, and the trade is DeMello to Columbus for the Blues 3rd. So just add that in here. Frosty Winnipeg says, what about Boone Jenner calling? I guess with Charlie Coyle, Fantilli, and Monahan, maybe a Boone Jenner becomes available. I don't think he's a 2C, though. I think you're looking at another Adam Lowry type player in your middle 6 here.
Exactly. And like we've talked about, the Jets have had an absolute parade of 3rd and 4th line guys for the past few years. It's not what they need at this point. They need offensive impact. They need somebody who can actually carry a little bit of scoring. So yeah, adding the same player with a slightly different nameplate on the back isn't moving the needle for me.
Michael Ham's names one of the 5 guys I named early in the show as his favorite. Is Hayden is another one I wonder about if you compare him with some skill. Yep. I think of those 5 names at the beginning, Hayden, Norris, Dak, Kopp, Rozovic, Barrett Hayden would be my preferred bet.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about it. I was wondering if, because at the end of last year we talked about Scheifele to Utah. I was wondering if something around Hayden first and Dmitry Shivashev would make some sense.
Ooh.
That was something I was starting to wonder.
That's interesting. Yeah, you could probably sell that pretty damn close. That'd be a good one to pop into the trade analyzer once it's all good to go.
Might have to do that.
Yeah.
Let's move into another one here.
Also, before we do, real quick, I want to address just James Robinson real quick, saying that Bucky absolutely needs to play fewer games, which means a backup the coach trusts. We found out this year that Connor Hellebuyck essentially picks his starts. So I don't know if a better backup is really going to accomplish that. If anything, he may not want to give up the crease to somebody who's going to challenge it at a stronger way. So I don't know. I don't think that'll happen that way, but you never know. You never know.
He might not even be in the crease next year. Which one should we move into here?
So the next one that I've got pulled up here is the Nightmare scenario by the Silver Scrub.
Okay, this is the Silver Scrub's Nightmare. I haven't read this yet. I've been trying to save everything for here. What is the Silver Scrub's Nightmare summer scenario? Let's get into it. We just saw a retool that's fair and probably gets them competitive, though I have some concerns. Let's talk about the Silver Scrub's Nightmare of a summer, shall we?
So let's start. 3 signings only. Pretty simple. Cole Perfetti, 1 year, $4.25 million. Feels a little low. Eric Comrie, 2 years at $1 million a year. And Isak Rosén, $1.5 million for 1 year.
I see those as all fair.
Yep. I think the Perfetti one probably feels a little low for what the camp will take, but you're probably in the ballpark. And here we go, the first big trade. Once again, man, we've got a bit of a theme going on. The chat really wants to see Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks coming to Winnipeg, along with a 2026 second and a 2026 third. Going in reverse is Jacob Julian, Thomas Millett, and the 2027 first round pick.
Now that's interesting. I'm going to withhold judgment until we're done. I think.
Do you want me to go to the next trade?
Yeah, let's go to the next trade.
We'll go to the whole thing.
When I'm thinking about that 2027 first, I want to see what the rest of this looks like.
The Winnipeg Jets are bringing in Brian Rust from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 2027 second, a 2026 second, and a 2026 third. And then the Winnipeg Jets are also sending Vlad Nemestikov to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Or pardon me, to the Pittsburgh Penguins, to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Everybody is sending Vlad home to Grandpa Bones for a 6th-round pick back. It's just a salary dump. So those are the 3 trades. Really the 2.
So I ultimately wonder, as Tico Pauly says in the chat, Van says no. I do wonder if, because of the lack of centers available, I still see EP40 getting positive value, and I wonder if that's just not enough for them.
Agreed.
That is a lot of picks going out the door for guys that you're stuck on their contracts with as well, from the Winnipeg's perspective, where if it doesn't work out, I see why this is a nightmare.
Yep.
This is actually terrifying where this kind of scenario could go with a bad season next year.
The scariest part, honestly, for me is kind of what you're saying, though, that the Vancouver one still feels a little light. So the Jets probably have to still add to that package to make it happen, which makes this even more of an absolute nightmare. So let's
I almost wonder if they don't send any picks back, and it's like, EP40 for Julian Millich in a 2027 first.
Yep, that feels more in line. So your lineup would look like Kyle Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde, of course, Perfetti, Petey, and Rust, Nino, Lowry, Iafallo, Koepke, Barron, and Rosén. And your defense is unchanged. You've got Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, Salamonson.
It's certainly something. I think it's probably 5th in the Central.
Yep.
And
I feel like that's about right.
I wonder about the values a little bit, but it's something. It's a nightmare, all right, because if this doesn't work, you're really fucked.
Somehow managed to keep 8 overall, though, it looks like. Yeah, managed to keep number 8 overall. So maybe not the most nightmarish situation.
He tried to approach it like we're hearing the Jets, as we saw Murat put out a bit of a article in a report saying he expects the Jets to keep number 8, but their future firsts and seconds are on the table, which is absolutely terrifying. Yeah, we're going to keep this one while we're a bad team.
Yeah.
But we're going to spend the next 2 while we're a bad team.
To make sure we stay a bad team.
Yeah, trying to get the future. Oh, man. The Murat report was not comforting. I'm sorry.
No.
Keeping number 8. Like, you either have to go full ship and you're trading all the next firsts, which I think would be absolutely insane in franchise suicide.
Yep.
or you got to hold all of them. Like, you can't play this middle ground where it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to draft 8, but we expect ourselves to be better next year, so we're going to sacrifice 2027.
Half in,
we
half
talked
out.
about the Yeah, that's another half in, half out approach. You can't do both. You got to go one way hard or the other way hard. You are 5th, 6th, or 7th in the Central moving forward. And if you start blowing out those assets in the future and it doesn't work, which it's highly unlikely to work when you start actually trying to play this exercise, you're committing suicide.
Yep, absolutely.
You can't do it.
No. And to answer old Jets fan on the Twitch chat, no, 2026, they do not have their own second whatsoever.
Correct. And 2027 is the big draft. You want to talk about, you want to be bad when there's a generational draft? Landon Dupont will be on your TV on TSN tonight. Do yourself a favor and tune in. I have never seen a 16-year-old defenseman look like this. The way he manages time and space, the way he handles pressure, and he's been the first exceptional defenseman in the dub. That's your number one. Never mind what's coming behind it. You don't take that risk. You don't.
No, it's let somebody else make that mistake.
Okay, should we move into another one?
Yep, let's get to the next one.
In the DuPont game, so you got Everett versus PA in the finals. TSN is streaming all of it. Fantastic hockey. I've caught most of the first 3 games. Daxon Rudolph, who's getting some Jets hype, is on PA, and I've really enjoyed his final as well. I could see why there's some hype for Daxon Rudolph on the right side of a decor. If you're into prospects, Everett versus PA, game 4 tonight, or 3 tonight. Game 3 or 4? 1 or 2?
4, yeah.
Colin Hall says, and DuPont isn't even the clear-cut number 1. Close to it, but Alexis Joseph's in that conversation with what happened in Quebec this year up the middle. Where there's a kid out of Russia. I'm seeing a lot of hype. It's been fun to watch, and if you watch Landon DuPont play hockey even once, you'll see why I'm pushing the pedal down on being bad this year. Yep. I have not seen a 16-year-old defenseman look like this. It is incredible.
Just wait till a couple seasons on the Moose. That'll really get it.
You jump right into the NHL. Colin Hall says Carter Bear, what a player. Really enjoyed him too. He's confirming my thoughts on wanting him in a KC trade.
Oh yeah, if you can get him, do it.
And Colin Hall points out Privalov is the Russian who's getting a ton of hype. Yeah, tune in for Landon DuPont, and you might change your thoughts on a rebuild ASAP. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move into another one.
Vibe Up. If you're asking how do you make one, I'm wondering, you're assuming one of these scenarios. It's on Puckpedia, the Puck GM. You can go on there, build your trades and your signings and all of that. And once you do and you publish it, you can just send the link to us on through email at toplinemedia@gmail.com. You can DM it to Nick or myself, or get it to us anyway. But it's on the Puckpedia website. You can do it all up there and send it in.
Yeah, under Puck GM.
Yep.
So this is Choice's first attempt at a retool.
Yes.
He did say if we were going to use it, he wanted to stress that this is not what he would do, but he was looking for avenues to make this work.
This is just an idea he has of a retool. It's not his preferred retool.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Good. All right, so let's pull up our signings. We've got 4 signings. First off, Cole Perfetti, 4 years by 6. Anthony Mantha.
Everyone's going there.
Wow, all right. 5.25 for 3 seasons.
I like Mantha, actually.
Isak Rosane.
I think he makes a ton of sense for the Winnipeg Jets right now.
Isak Rosane, 1.5 for 2 years. And Bobby McCann, 5 years, $4 million.
Okay, so we went the unconventional Winnipeg route of retooling on the fly with some big free agent signings. Anthony Mantha and Bobby McMahon are legitimate upgrades within the middle 6, and both can bring offense. You're also not sacrificing any assets to get them. Now we also do know Winnipeg's not necessarily a free agent destination, but I do like the vision. I've always been a Mantha believer. I think he really would add some offensive punch in the middle 6. And we just saw what Bobby McMahon did with Seattle down the stretch. don't hate the approach to a retool. I just wonder about Winnipeg landing what'll end up being somehow, given how bad the UFA class is, two of the better offensive players.
Yep. This is have no hate whatsoever on adding those two players, those two types of players. It's going to be, I think, an uphill battle to convince them to sign in Winnipeg. But if you can do it at that value, I'm for it. That's a good way to start off the retool. And yes, to the silver scrub, the nightmare scenario is he's saying, remember everybody, that was the nightmare. That was the worst case scenario that he could think of, not what they would do if he was in charge. So I'm just letting you know.
And I will say Kevin K does nail it, the downside of Anthony Mantha, saying Mantha can rip it, but man, what a 6'5" marshmallow. And it always seems to get him in trouble with coaches by playoff times, where he'll score 20, 25 goals for you consistently. And by the playoffs, coaches are just frustrated and not using him. Just thought that was a fair thought from Kevin K.
And we love 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" marshmallows. That's kind of Winnipeg's bread and butter, right? The Tyler Myers, the Logan Stanleys. We love a giant man who is actually real soft. So that's hey, you never know. It's right there.
Hey, T. Kona, we'll take calls next show. All
right, so going to the big trade on this one, we've got Winnipeg Jets add Mason McTavish for Morgan Barron, a 2028 first and a 2027 second. And then Nito Niederreiter is a cap dump to the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2027 third.
So I could see Anaheim doing that deal, and I feel like Mason McTavish is the grenade of the summer to avoid in this 2C conversation.
Yep.
He's totally the one I think the Jets will target, given he's on that fresh new $7 million deal. He's still young. He's someone you could sell as a young 2C that could grow into a 1C. But the reality is he hasn't even been that in his time in the NHL.
Yep.
And Anaheim might have jumped too soon. You could give me the idea that Mason McTavish, who was the coach in Anaheim last year, that dumbass? Can't remember his name. He won't be back in the NHL. You could have sold me last summer on the idea that the Ducks' up-and-coming best players were held back by last year's coach. You cannot sell me on the idea that Mason McTavish, under Coach Q, is being held back by coaching. The fact he's having an even worse season under Quenneville, he's getting moved to right wing. He's getting healthy scratched for them off and on in the playoffs. He's totally the type of guy I think Chevy would target, and it's totally the guy I want to miss in this market.
It was Greg
Cronin.
Thank
you, James Robinson. Yeah, and Colin, they had just mentioned that too. You could sell me on any young guy under Greg Cronin as being a potential buy low. Seeing multiple back-to-back years of Mason McTavish not look like he knows how to play hockey. The brain's not there. And John Quenneville, or Coach Q, being done with him, I'm good. I don't need to take that bet. I'm good.
Yep.
But I see the vision. We could keep going through it here.
Yep, absolutely.
I see the vision. Colin Hall, I don't buy Mac T's situation being the Dubois one. Dubois actually showed he could be a top 6 center.
Yes.
Mason McTavish has not shown that at all in the NHL, and they're committed long-term at $7 million for a guy that can't process the game of hockey, and that's his biggest issue. I don't believe him at all. I just don't.
Yep, totally agree. So your lineup's looking like, of course, Connor Scheifele-Velarde, Mantha, McTavish, Perfetti, Iafallo, Lowry, Bobby McCann, and Vlad drafting Bjork in this situation, and Cole Koepke on the fourth line.
So I'm going to be honest, I don't think this team makes the playoffs.
Ooh.
So we gave up a 2028 first, and I don't think this team makes the playoffs.
I kind of have to agree. That's a tough one. I feel like it would go a lot like this
It's a better
season.
group than this year.
Yeah. But you'd be maybe at fighting it down to the last few games, always on the outside chasing, and probably still end up missing.
It's the kind of one where you're drafting 13th overall next year.
Yep.
And you're pissed at yourself because you've now lost your 2028 first. Mason McTavish didn't solve the level of center you need. And you're probably frustrated by Mantha by game 80.
Yep. It feels like that's the path.
And as Choice says, I know in no way support a retool at all. But
yep.
I could see Chevy approaching it this way. Oh man, it would be a disaster in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a tough looking forward group. I'm going to be honest.
Jets Effect Winnipeg says McTavish was one of those early puberty dominating in minor and junior. Doesn't translate. Got the Colby Barlow going to him.
Yep, feels like it.
Silver Scrub says, I think this team is like 2 to 6 points out. Exactly where I think it falls to. Like, I think they'd compete, but we'd be pissed off they miss the playoffs. And we'd be pissed off because that'll be the official end of the core. And we don't have our 2028 first to kick off that rebuild a year out from there. I'm good. Don't do this kind of thing. Chevy, please don't be a moron. Please don't do this.
Yep.
The thing with choices here, I could totally see a lot of this, at least from the trades. The free agency is always hard in Winnipeg.
Yep.
Don't be the Mason McTavish sucker.
Let someone else make that mistake. And the final one we had was one sent to you on Twitter today.
Oh, that quick one.
Yep.
I didn't understand it too much. And then we have the one out of Australia. I could pitch.
Oh, is that the WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pull that up here 1 sec.
Okay, but the quick one on Twitter was very quick. It was only 4 moves, so that could be a quick discussion.
Okay, let me know which one you want to do first. I've got both ready here.
We'll get the Twitter one out of the way quick.
Okay.
Nelly over on Twitter said, "My perfect summer would include firing Chevy. Where are you so far? On number 1.
Yep, great, perfect.
Firing Arneal.
Yep, nailed it.
3, trading 37.
Oh, yep, killing it.
I'm for it. And then number 4, trading the 8th overall pick.
Oh, so close.
Yeah, for me, the one thing I don't understand is trading Hellebuck and then still giving up the first, because Hellebuck's the biggest piece that gives the Jets a ceiling to believe in. Even if you trade him, like let's say you do the Lundell and 9 thing. Are you a better team next year with Anton Lundell versus Connor Hellebuck? I don't believe so.
No.
Never mind the type of players, as we've discussed all show, that are kind of available. I don't see the pathway to that. Feels like straddling the line again.
Yes.
Rather than committing all the way to one direction. We're at the point. You got to go all in with the picks or all out with the core. That's where we're at. I don't see trading Hellebuck, which will largely probably be futures, and trading number 8 and getting you anywhere but here.
Yep, you're again half in, you're half out. There ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. You gotta be in it. Either you're trading Hellebuck and rebuilding, or you're trading number 8 and you're pushing all the chips in now. To do both, again, just feels like treading water.
Kevin K says, Twitter thread had me right to the last one. If you're trading Helly, you're moving 44 and 81 too.
Yeah. They had us in the first half, not going to lie.
And Choices points out, isn't any retool a last-ditch sell job to keep the core happy? That's essentially where we're at.
100%.
So let's go over to our friend Ecker from Australia and see how he would like to rebuild the Jets. He went a different avenue than both of us on the teams to target. Really liked his approach to it when you start looking at it in a full picture. Let's get into Eckers from down under.
Right on. So
the Aussie rebuild.
Ecker writes in, still think Buffalo is the destination for Helly. Levy or UPL is a good starting point, plus lots of RFA or term players. But here's my take on our perfect summer. Connor Hellebuck to Carolina for a first. Blake and Kochkev flogged for 50 games, great save percentage, traded at the deadline to Edmonton for a first. Connor and DeMello to Washington, pending on G8? What is G8?
Not sure.
For Sandin, McMichael, Ryan Leonard, and Anaheim's first, okay? Morrissey to New Jersey for Simon Nemec, Mercer, and a first next year. Josh eventually becomes the major piece, going to Mini for Quinn Hughes. This is thought out. And then Scheifele to Mini for Wallstat, and next year's first. I know you don't really value goalies, but he, excuse me, is their only viable asset, and they will want a top-tier center. Pardon me, 1 sec.
Yeah, grab some water, buddy. So I like the approach here because I do think as much as we've focused on the Florida destination for Helly being ready-made, I do think Buffalo makes a lot of sense. especially with Levi and UPL being their guys. Levi's their third at this point. We're seeing Alex Lyon in playoff games. So I do think Buffalo fits the mold of a spot that has a ton of assets, that has a goalie you could send back, and has some players ready now or prospects that you can get excited about. So I do think Buffalo's a good Helly spot. Helly to Carolina for a first, Jackson Blake and Peter Kochev. I think that's in the range of a fair deal for Connor Hellebuyck.
Yep.
What do you think of that one?
Yeah, you're definitely in the right valuation for Hellebuyck there.
It's a later first, but Jackson Blake's on a great contract that just started. He's going to be a mid-six winger through the rebuild, and you're going to have great value on that. And Kochev comes in, plays some games for you. I don't mind that approach to Hellebuyck.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if you're able to then go out, flip it, and go get another first. That value starts to really get nice for the Jets.
So, Connor and DeMello to Washington for Sandin, McMichael, Ryan Leonard, and Anaheim first. That's a big one. I think Washington, I think it was Colin Hall that pointed this out. Someone reached out and said, sorry if I miscredited you, Washington being a very sneaky spot for Josh Morrissey this summer.
Ooh.
But what do you think of the proposed Connor and DeMello to Washington for Sandin, McMichael, Ryan Leonard, and Anaheim first?
So the chat pointed out G8 is supposed to be the Great Eight's Ovi. So depending on what Ovi's decision is, right, if they want to try to run that through and what's happening there. So that's a real interesting spot. I hadn't considered looking at Washington, especially with the opening for defense there, because they are going to be looking, right. That is something that they're going to want to start spending some time on. And if you're able to offer up the big scoring piece in Connor and that kind of quieter, piece in DeMello that still carries the value, that's not bad. What do you think of the players though coming back for that one?
I love the return. My hesitation here is I think Washington would say no.
Yeah.
I would really love this deal for the Winnipeg Jets. You get Sandin right into your second pair.
Yep.
He's going to have value. Connor McMichael being a mid-six center. I think where this kind of gets in some trouble is the Ryan Leonard of it all.
Yeah.
I think they would have a lot of trouble moving Ryan Leonard for a $12 million shooter into his 30s.
Yep.
He's kind of the big piece that they've come out of their retool and hit on the draft. Would love if this happened. I just think this is one Washington says no based on the Ryan Leonard of it all.
Agreed.
But I'd love to have Ryan Leonard in Winnipeg, man.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving to an interesting spot here.
Yeah. This is an interesting one because I had always, we've talked a lot about Hellebuyck to Florida. New Jersey was the other spot I'd always penciled Hellebuyck going to. You've got the Hughes brothers out there. You've got an absolute opening in net. You've got a new GM now who's going to want to maybe make a splash. That was the other spot that I really, had penciled Connor Hellebuyck in for. So Josh Morrissey going there is an interesting one, especially with, looking at Nemec being the, kind of the odd man out right now.
This is one I would actually turn down if I was Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I would want more certainty. I think Mercer's in the same vein of the Cole Perfetti, where high expectations. He's put up some points, but his complete game has some struggles. You're not trusting him to come be a driver. I think he's a secondary scorer when all this is said and done. I like Simon Nemec. I don't love him as a headliner in this deal. He showed some pop this year in the National Hockey League, but if you break down his game, a lot of it is kind of the Logan Stanley conversation of running hot percentages offensively. And defensively, he hasn't matured as much for a number 2 overall pick as you would have hoped. And then the Devils getting Josh next year. That first-round pick's probably going to be mid.
Yep.
This is one of those, I see the thought process. I could see a team doing it. This is one I'd want to avoid because I think New Jersey's getting out of some names that used to carry value, but they don't really get the Jets moving as quickly forward as possible. I'd want a little bit more certainty, I think.
Yep, totally agree.
And then moving to the mini of it all.
Scheifele to Minnesota for Wallstat, the next year's first.
It's kind of crazy how well Mark Scheifele actually fills the mini C hole. You have him and Eriksson Ek playing off of each other at 1-2. Love Wallstead, and as he mentions, I know you don't value goalies. I do value the ones that have shown it at the NHL level at a young age, like Wallstead has done. I just don't buy into goalies before the National Hockey League. I do love Wallstead, and you instantly have your next franchise goalie probably coming out of that.
Yep.
I do think the value is a little light when we look at the value of goaltenders. I don't think Wallstead in next year's first for mini, which will likely be very late, adding a Scheifele to that whole mix. I would need like a Urov in there and another Dart at something in there. But I think you're on the right track to what a deal that actually makes sense could look like if you were moving off all four of the big core guys.
Yep.
And trying to retool this, rebuild this on the fly. I like getting Wallstead with Hellebuyck on. I like adding future firsts. When I look at that package, I would need like a Urov who Scheifele would be supplanting in the top six center group. He's young. He's playing in the NHL already. He's a center. I would need some more juice out of that trade for Mark Scheifele on an $8.5 million deal. On the same day, we see a Charlie Coyle get $6 million. Yeah. That's the other side of the center conversation. If Charlie Coyle is getting 6x6 to play 3C, and we know this market is missing quality centers, what the hell does Mark Scheifele bring on the trade market? When you start thinking about this, he's only $2.5 million more than the Charlie Coyle deal. Mark Scheifele is more than 2.5 times the player of a Charlie Coyle.
Yep.
It just continues to lead me to the one clear, logical conclusion right now.
Yep. You would want, especially going to a division rival like that, you're going to want an impact, bigger piece in that deal coming back to you than just that first of next year. So agree. You need something else in that Scheifele deal to make this one palatable.
I do think the teams we're talking about here as potential trading partners do make sense. I liked going a different way with the rebuild. I think the Helly to Carolina deal is actually like really close to fair value, kind of like the whole Carolina or Florida way, just in a different approach to it. I would want more certainty out of a Josh Morrissey trade at this point with 2 years at $6.25 million.
Yep.
As Michael Hem says, not sold on Nemec. He's more of a reclamation project than a top prospect for me. That's my big thing in that deal. It feels like you're taking on a lot of guys that have stalled and hoping you could reinvigorate them.
Yep.
I think if you're moving off these guys, you do need that certainty at the top of a prospect list, a can't miss type of guy. I do think Scheifele to Mini makes a ton of sense, but talk about hell for this fan base.
Oh, that would be hard to stomach. That would be hard to stomach to see him in a Wild jersey.
Yeah, I think those were really interesting. So thank you, Ecker. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
Thanks for
shout
helping
out to
us
Ecker.
go global. Like the trading partners, and I think there's avenues there. We'd just like to see a little more value out of the Morrissey and Scheifele angles.
Yep.
And I do think the Ryan Leonard of it all stalls the Washington one. But I do think these are some of the right teams to be looking at for some of these moves. So very much appreciate that. Silver Scrub, we'll do your dream scenario on Thursday because we're going to get some more sent in. I'll try and grind out a retool, but I've been getting frustrated. I don't want to present you guys something I don't believe is going to work, but I'll try to hammer one out.
Yep.
We appreciate your time. Is there anything else left that you want to discuss, Mikey, on the way out here?
We had the Darren Dreger report I know that you mentioned. I don't know if you wanted to hit that.
I forgot about that.
Or do you want to save that for Thursday?
We could talk about it now.
Okay.
The Darren Dreger of it all.
Darren Dreger reported that Winnipeg has a lot of work to do. We know that they need a number 2 center. We know that they'd like to address some needs on the blue line. They've got a top 10 pick, and they're wondering, are you open for business, and can you flip that pick into a package?
Fuck.
How are we feeling about the that initial set from Darren Dreger?
So what I'm hearing is we need a 2C, some defense. as we know, you also need offensive wingers. Guys, this list that Drager's starting to put out is getting longer and longer with less and less pathways to getting there.
Yep.
I hate it. It's like, it's grasping at straws. It's such a pathetic public attempt to grasp at straws. We're 45 minutes away from the draft, or 45 minutes, 45 days away from the draft. And we're talking about needing a 2C, multiple D, likely knowing the Jets. Likely knowing the Jets are chasing size on D again.
Yep.
Because they look at it as too small versus too big rather than a talent thing. Guys, it's just not feasible. When you hear reports like this from Drager, I 100% believe the team is trying to do exactly that. It is just not feasible. It's not.
And out of the, what are we at, 15 seasons now in Winnipeg, you've been able to say that the Winnipeg Jets are looking for a 2C and a right D for at 10 to 12 of those 15 years, every single, like, so yeah, they need those things because they've never been able to address it up to this point. To say that that's like a positive or that, oh, they're going to flip that number 8 to go do it, it just is absolute insanity to me. You haven't been able to do it properly for the vast majority of your stretch here, and now you're going to leverage the one thing that you have going for you that could give you a cornerstone piece for a longer stretch than just a season or two of whatever aging free agent you're trying to either, pry out with a year or two left on their deal. Like, it doesn't. It's crazy to me that, that's being pointed to as, look, the Jets are, they're trying to stay in it.
Third points out, maybe Celebrini is just that good that doesn't matter who he plays with. Vibe Guy, in which Vibe Guy said the chemistry between the Jets on Team Canada and Celebrini is crazy. Do we start talking about Mark Scheifele to San Jose? Is Macklin Celebrini doing some recruiting of the Jets? 2 of their 3 first-line players. Is Mark Scheifele going to start looking at Kyle Connor and the bromance they developed and say, hey, maybe it's time to cheat with Macklin Celebrini?
I mean, we've I guess it really depends on what happens at number 2, what they end up doing there, because that's not a bad center to kind of place in that group of young players coming up with a Celebrini and a Misa. You know what I mean? Adding Scheifele to that group. Whew. Oh no, he'll be a winger for sure. So it is an interesting thing to consider, and you'd get quite the package back for Scheifele.
Bingo Bango says Chevy definitely okay. Drags on that street, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to talk about Scheifele? Actually, Scheifele for Misa becomes more feasible.
Oh, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Yeah. I'm driving him to the airport. I'm packing his bags for him. I'll go walk his dogs ahead of time. I'm getting Scheifele all the way there if the offer ever comes in a package Misa for Mark Scheifele. You run. You take that deal and you move so fast. You fax it into the NHL's trade office. You drop it off by carrier pigeon, whatever you got to do.
You don't give them a second thought.
No. Oh, God, no.
But on these reports, Drager's report, obviously terrifying. Murat's report, obviously terrifying. I'm going to stick to my gut. I believe the Jets are trying these things. And maybe they find avenues to get there that I'm just not seeing. I'm going to stick with my gut here. Reading the tea leaves, I believe they're trying this. I believe they're putting this out publicly to show Connor Hellebuyck they're trying. But I do think when shit hits the fan and the delivery is supposed to be met rather than just rumors, I still am sticking with my gut that the Winnipeg Jets are stuck and won't be able to put together the type of offseason that will keep Connor Hellebuyck happy. And I think we see some fireworks there. I'm sticking to that gut. Yep. Despite the reports we're hearing, I believe they're trying to do that. I believe what you're hearing from Drager and Murat is the Winnipeg Jets putting on a full frontal look at trying to make some big moves to keep Connor Hellebuyck happy. I'm going to stick with my gut and tell you it's just not going to happen. I think we'll get where we're going. I think Connor Hellebuyck sees the reality and they're not going to be able to pull off what he expects. And I think that domino comes. If not, it was brought to my attention, actually, and I found this really interesting, actually, in the scope of our conversations. So we both know that Connor Hellebuyck goes from a no-move clause to a 10-team no trade next year.
Yep.
And his contract is the exact same setup as Mark Scheifele's. You know what I find really interesting about their contract setups right now?
What's that?
And maybe we are a year early from the plan. We'll see what Hellebuyck decides, because clearly he's driving the bus. You know what's really interesting about when that 10-team no trade kicks in?
What's that?
Scheifele next year and Connor Hellebuyck next year are $7.5 million in cash.
Mm-hmm.
They jump up to $10 million and $9 million the following year.
Yeah.
And if this team misses the playoffs in back-to-back years, do you think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be interested in doling out $20 million in hard cash, plus Kyle Connor's $15 million because his was front-loaded?
Yep.
Do you see the Jets forking out that much money due for a team that can't make the playoffs?
Ooh, they would not be happy about it. No, that's not their MO.
Man.
They really like, especially acquiring deals of, players with less than the AAV with cash on hand for the season, right? It's kind of it's a nice way to kind of approach it. I understand that from a business side. Yeah, like you said, multiple seasons of missing. That big paycheck starts to weigh a little heavier on on the owner's mind, maybe. That's possible.
A little different, doesn't it?
A little bit, yep. A little bit of my nightmare scenario is that the Jets do, try to quote unquote run it back to impress Hellebuyck. They do something like moving not the 26, first, but the 2027 first, maybe the 28 first in some type of big package, trying to make a big splash. The season still doesn't go well. Hellebuyck still ends up asking out. And now the Jets have, mortgaged the next couple drafts by losing, first and second round picks, trying to make him happy. And then we do end up in this 4-year, stretch of just barren, no real drafting, just, a draft desert essentially, where you can't really start your rebuild. And you do end up in a 6, 7, 8, 9 year thing because you wasted 4 or 5 years at the beginning, putting yourself in this hole. That to me right now feels like the most nightmarish scenario, that they go half in this year. It still pisses off Hellebuyck at the end of the year when they don't make it or don't do as well as they should. And then they're really screwed for the next 2-3 drafts. And we are stuck in a, Buffalo-esque type of spot. This really does feel a lot like what we were talking about at the deadline last year. You need to strike now. There are so many reasons why this summer is your best shot at moving some guys, whether it's the lack of available centers and offensive players, whether it's the fact that Florida has this perfect pick for Hellebuyck. All of these type of things you're not going to have in an extra season from now. And if you wait, it'll be too late, the same way that not making a big splash at the deadline last year made everything else just too late. That's kind of where my nightmare is right now.
Few thoughts in the chat, and I'll jump on to that as well. Saying, Al Camino says, that Connor contract's starting to look not so good in this reality. Huh, who saw that coming? Who saw that coming?
Ooh.
Kevin K says, Hallie going to be catching bass all summer, and calls him in a month and says, I ain't coming back. T-Will says, even if they missed with all that money on the books, they would have a stern word with Chevy. They might even wag a finger at him. I will say this. And May goes there, says, my nightmare scenario is the Leafs, but without winning the lottery, which I do think is in play, which is interesting. It's interesting to watch other teams make mistakes and then watch your GM want to do the same thing as them. So if you remember at the beginning of last year, I wasn't as high as consensus on the Nashville Predators. I thought they might sneak into a playoff spot, but I wasn't buying this idea that they were going to be this top of the conference team. And part of it was they took an aggressive forechecking team and got old and slow. You watch that happen in your division, and you're like, hey, what made Barry Trotz resign? Let's try that. And then the way Murat's report comes is like they're going to keep this year's first, but their next multiple firsts are available, brings us to the Toronto scenario where Brad Treliving just got shit canned, rightfully so, for screwing that team. Or I guess he walked. I don't remember how that played out. But I did have someone reach out and say, when you start looking at this from an executive's angle, I think Chevy is actually safer doing nothing or trading off the core. than trading 2 future firsts and missing the playoffs. Like, we know he's got a job for life, but if you trade multiple firsts into the future, which is the lifeblood of this organization, and you miss 2 consecutive years, I do wonder if that changes the conversation. I actually think he puts himself at more risk in the big picture.
In a perfect world, it definitely changes the conversation. You know, in any other market, it changes the conversation. I feel like 2 things work in, you know, Chevy and Winnipeg's favor here. One is that because there isn't the pressure from above him on, like, you're going to lose your job.
Moving first,
before
Hold
that.
on.
No, before moving the firsts. What I'm saying is, at the moment, like, if he hasn't moved anything, like you said, doing nothing is his safest bet. I think that is what is protecting, hopefully, Winnipeg from that scenario happening. Because I think he also knows that if he does nothing, that is his safest bet. There is no pressure at the moment from above of, like, your job is on the line right now. If he does do something crazy and drastic, that possibly could change. I think the fact that he isn't getting any type of pressure right now from above might be the one kind of saving grace for the Jets not moving those multiple firsts. And yeah, and in the other scenario, I still feel like management and the organization ends up blaming the players more than they blame Kevin Cheveldayoff. Like, if Chevy makes moves and brings in guys, they trust their hockey people. They know. So they're not going to – I have a hard time seeing them turn on Chevy in it. I feel like it'll be the players let him down, didn't play the right way, the coach didn't do the right – I feel like there's enough built-in excuses for him, but I'm banking on the fact that he isn't under any pressure yet, that hopefully that means he doesn't he either stays, like, stand pat, or Hellebuyck says, you have to move me. I'm hoping those are the only 2 choices, because the middle one is terrifying.
T. Will says, what team isn't going to want to trade for Winnipeg's next few firsts? They might all be in the top 5. And even if you add protections, the bill comes due at
eventually.
Some point. If we were talking about wanting to take Boston or Detroit's firsts because we don't trust them, I got to say, when I got off that stream, I realized we're the sucker in the same spot right now.
Yeah.
And that was concerning. T. Will also says Chevy won't do anything that brings him the slightest bit of risk or accountability if he can help it at all.
Yeah.
T. Will, for what you're hoping for, I think that's good news, to be completely honest, because I do agree with that. I don't think T. Will says, I told you, Nik, running it back. I think this is where you're not adding things together properly, actually. If you believe, T. Will, that Chevy's going to stand pat and not put himself in risk, that means you believe that they want to run it back and believe this team's good enough. Guess what? Guess what that leads to? It's very obvious what that leads to. And it's no longer in Chevy's hands when that next step comes. Yeah. If you're someone that believes, like I do, that the Jets have no pathways to making the real moves to make this team a contender, you believe that Chevy won't put himself at risk and overpay with future assets to do it, and that they just feel comfortable with where they're at, it means the next domino that comes from that string of events is Connor Hellebuyck very publicly asking out of Winnipeg, and that changes everything. If that is your thought process, the next logical step comes to the Connor Hellebuyck of it all. And that's why I feel comfortable thinking we're going to get fireworks at some point here. I hope it's good fireworks.
Yep.
But I do think we're going to get some fireworks here, because just doing nothing is going to lead to them having to do something big.
Yes.
In the name of Connor Hellebuyck.
Yep. And you
Choices TK. Go for it.
No, and you can't ignore it at that point.
You can't. It's going to be very loud in public.
Yes.
The Jets are kind of lucky. Austin Matthews and his situation's getting all the press right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Choices TK says Chevy basically can't lose. He has excuses anyway he goes. Either 37 is mean and force their hand, or he couldn't mortgage the future to make this work. Chipman has to be the one to figure it out, and Chevy is not the guy to get it done in Winnipeg. Hey, if he can't mortgage the future, everything we're hoping for becomes more realistic.
Yep.
It's going to take patience. It's going to take likely closer to the draft. But if you don't believe Chevy's going to move multiple firsts, which is the scary situation right now, the Brad Trey living of it all, because he's not going to put himself at risk, and you don't think he's going to make a big core trade because of risk, guess what? Connor Hellebuyck of it all comes into play. That's where this is going.
Yep. If we get through the draft this year and to free agency, and it's looking like Connor Hellebuck hasn't been moved, isn't going to be moved. It looks like they're going to run this back with a couple free agent signings and whatnot. Save this episode, come back to it, pull this clip up in a year when Connor Hellebuck is publicly saying, I need to go. Nothing has changed. You can't, how did he phrase it? You can't keep putting out the same lineup and expect a different result. So yeah, the complacency, you'll hear him be a lot more direct with it next summer if they fully go and run this one back.
L. May says, but what if they trade Helly for a player to try and contend now, like Calgary with Tkachuk? Then we're in a pretty tough spot. But the thing with the goalie markets, I just don't see that. Who's giving up an impact player for a goalie? I don't see that scenario.
No, yeah. Anybody that's trading for Connor Hellebuck right now is going to be doing it with futures. It's really hard to picture a trade scenario to take somebody off the roster to add Connor Hellebuck. That's going to get you the right valuation coming back to Winnipeg where you want to make that deal.
And Lundell just isn't that guy despite the hype.
He's not. Yeah, exactly. It's a good piece to be bringing back, but the real value is in that number 9.
Last one, as me and T. Will go back and forth. Saw him at the Moose game.
Shout out.
T. Will says, but Nick, you also have to think that Chevy wants to stay after Scheif and Helly leave. Chevy is riding this core into the ground, then riding off into the sunset. Okay, I need you to explain yourself here because those two thoughts don't really pair with each other. If Scheif and Helly leave, this core won't be ridden into the ground because they're forcing their way out. And this team won't be ridden into the ground because they're going to get a lot of future value for that. That is the scenario. If those two leave, even if Chevy's still here, I actually trust Chevy to make the trades for the team if the core asks out. Now, the upwards process, we could have some conversations about. But I don't understand the idea that if Chevy or Helly and Scheifele leave, you're running the core into the ground when you're actually turning that core into future assets so you don't run it into the ground.
That's the end of the core at that point, right? If Shelley and Hellebuck asked to be traded, Morrissey wants out. Like, there's not going to be, like, the core's done at that point. So it's,
Yeah, I don't understand how if they leave, we're running into the ground.
And at that point, though, Chevy will definitely ride off. And, like, he'll stay and, he'll keep going forever at that point.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
For the first,
I don't think it's fine, but that's just me.
It could be so much worse, I guess. I guess that's where we're at.
But that's like saying, he only hit me a little bit with his car. Like, he could have backed up over me. It was just, he only hit me once. Like, yeah, I get that there are worse, but I still would, in the event that the core is going, I would, and again, in a different organization, in a perfect world, I would want a new GM with a new vision coming in to build this going forward, because we've seen Chevy's vision for 15 years and it's just not good enough.
T-Will kind of answers this, but I'm still confused where everything's bouncing to here. T-Will says, Chevy is going to try and ride this core as long as he can. We all agree on that.
Yep. And
push off the rebuild as long as he can. We all agree on that. As soon as it's inevitable, he bounces.
Disagree.
So if this is going into a rebuild and Chevy's leaving, even better. Like,
I like that idea, but I disagree so hard that he would willingly bounce at that point. The only way he leaves is when he retires. It's when he's decided he's done working in hockey. And we've seen fucking some of these executives work until their 70s and 80s and shit lately. So we've got another 20 plus years of Kevin Cheveldayoff at the helm of your Winnipeg Jets until he wants to retire. That's the only way he's not running this organization.
L. May says, do any of you think Morrissey would extend and stay? I do.
There are scenarios.
And I don't.
Like, there are scenarios. But you're going to have to really pitch something to him that makes it look like he's going to have an opportunity at some point while he is still somewhat in a prime to win a Stanley Cup. Because if you can't make that plea to him and show him a pathway forward, I don't know why he would want to. So
I think he's pretty ingrained here, though. Like, I don't view him in the same way as I view Scheifele, Connor, and Hellebuck. I wouldn't be surprised.
Guys want to win. At the end of the day, most, and not all of them, right? Some of them are more than fine to, collect that paycheck, get the big contract, take care of their families, take care of, everything going forward. But I feel like a lot of them want that Stanley Cup win over anything, that it's the reason that they're in this, the reason why they're doing this, especially somebody like Morrissey, who hasn't won one, who's gotten to, taste a little bit of, Team Canada flavor there. Oh, are they going to came up short there too this time around? I feel like there's Morrissey at the end of the day, I still think would need somebody to show him a path forward in Winnipeg that leads to success at a team level before he would be willing to. Not that he would say no overall, right? There's still chances at it. I just think it would take quite a bit to convince him that this is still going to give him a shot.
Yeah, I think that's good for tonight. Almost talk for 2 hours on this Tuesday night about some fantasy scenarios. Thank you to everyone that has sent in their mock proposals. If you'd like to keep doing that, toplinemedia@gmail.com. We've been using Puckpedia's Puck GM tool. We could keep going through. I enjoy doing stuff like this and going through different people's ideas. So feel free to keep sending us that kind of stuff. We appreciate all the support of late. We hopped over the old 700 subs on YouTube.
Let's go.
We appreciate you being here. Always nice to see us jump over a nice new round number. The social media numbers of late, doing these types of episodes has created quite the buzz.
Quite the conversation.
10,000 views on the Hellebuck trade proposal. Some people telling me I'm stupid. Some that loved it. It was great. Doing some of that trolling with the old Jets has created some buzz. Someone was really pissed at me for the Kyle Connor for number 4 thing.
Yep.
And they asked me if I'm a GM, and turns out they're commenting and they're not a GM, so I don't understand that.
Weird.
Back and
it wasn't
forth.
Lou Lamoriello? Oh, shocking.
But ton of fun doing this. We love all the interaction. You hate it? We love it. You love me? We love it. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for supporting the show. We will see you not Thursday. We're going to give Mikey the night to watch the Canadians versus Sabres, and I'm going to I have a bit of a family thing that night as well, so we're going to not go Thursday. Are you doing anything
Friday? Maybe we think we do Friday, right?
Yeah, we could keep the ball rolling Friday. We'll be back Friday. We'll keep the content coming. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you later this week. Have a great week.
Right on, everybody. And remember, if you're within the sound of my voice right now, that means you're either watching us on YouTube, you're listening to us on one of the many podcast platforms. Do me a favor, hit that like button, hit a subscribe button. If there's something for stars, give us 5 of those. It just helps us be seen. It helps us get the word out there about the show. Doesn't cost you a dime and really helps us out. So thank you very much, and good night, everybody.